Hey, it's Sukrit from STEM Coder, and today we're going to be talking about some important notation related to derivatives. In future videos, we're actually going to get into more details about derivatives, so it's really important that you understand the notation quite well. So over here we have the simple function f of x is equal to 2x plus 3. And there's two important things you need to learn, independent and dependent variables. An independent variable, like the variable x over here, is a variable that we can control. And a dependent variable, like the variable y, is a variable that is dependent on the values of the independent variables. So over here we plug in a value of x and we get an output of y. Now for derivative we use this notation over here, d over dx. And what does d over dx signify? Well, it represents the derivative with respect to x. And what does that mean? Well, if we're performing this operation d over dx on an expression, it basically says how much does the value of the expression, so the value that expression evaluates to, how much does that change by if my value of x changes by 1. So let's look at an example over here. If I take d over dx of f of x, it basically says how much does the output of my function change if my value of x changes by 1. Now, as we know, f of x, we can also represent as y because y is the output of this function f of x. So d over dx of f of x is also d over dx of y. Pretty makes sense, right? We're basically saying how much does the output y change if x changes by 1. Well, instead of writing the y to the side of d over dx, we sometimes or usually just write it like this, dy over dx. So these two are equivalent. And dy over dx does not mean dy divided by dx. No, that's not what it means. It means the derivative of y with respect to x. So basically means if x changes by 1 unit, how much does y change by? So hope that makes sense. Let's look at this quick example down here. When I take d over dx of f of x, that's the same as taking d over dx of y because y is the output corresponding to f of x. And that's equal to dy over dx. Remember, these two things are equal. And dy over dx, well, y is equal to 2x plus 3, right? So dy over dx is equal to d over dx of this thing over here. So the derivative of this thing with respect to x. And what is that? Well, it's 2. Because if my x changes by 1, the value of this changes by 2. Because this is just a linear function with slope 2. So hopefully that makes sense. Next time you see something like this, dy over dx, basically means how much does the y change by if my x changes by 1. It's pretty much what you need to know. I hope that helps, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos.